Alright, another video. Continuing the fake Sagan thing. He said something so, like, outrageously, just one of the kind of just cliche bastardizations, perversions of what I believe and advocate, that it's just so bad. And you're just saying, well, why the pretense of all these videos talking about this intimacy when, you haven't got my smell right at all. I mean, I don't even think you could describe how many noses I have. I mean, I don't think you know me at all. I mean, at all. And that's pretty weird. So anyway, let's play some of this.
Is because life is very painful for you. You find existence to be horrifying and defined by pain and suffering.
Right, so we did that part, but, again, I happen to have the experience of it, and that's enough. But again, you can't really demonstrate that my life has been worse than some parallelized guy or something. There's lots of people that had more painful lives than me, and they don't say what I say, so it just yeah, no, sorry. And I've already explained that 90% of the conclusions were drawn at 10 years old. I mean, it really wasn't that complicated. The realization that I'm participating in something that isn't obviously reasonable.
And you lack the capacity to imagine that anyone else feels differently than you do.
Well, again, that's just plain silly. You see people every day doing all kinds of wacky things for wacky reasons, and they're reasoning, and you see them set themselves up for all kinds of failure and humiliations and all kinds of things that don't make any sense. So again, it's no. I make arguments. Again, I can argue that retarded people are, generally speaking, less burdened, okay, because they can't understand. And so simple things for, simple pleasures for simple minds. Yourself included, I suppose.
Well, I've kind of been making the same mistake when it comes to you. I take a look at your life, and I see a guy who is essentially a shut-in. He's been living in his house for a very long time, doesn't go out much.
Doesn't matter, as I've pointed out. I've had been to a lot of places, done lots of stuff, and even here, there's lots of adventures to be had. I can go fight bears in the woods, lots of things to do. So again, this idea that my life is unnutritious just doesn't, you don't know me very well. You don't even, I made videos, a whole series of them where I'm swimming in the video. Yeah, come on.
Much. Just kind of spends a lot of time talking to strangers about how horrible life is and how they should all agree with him and commit mass suicide. And
there we go. I mean, go point that out somewhere. So 4,000 videos. I've never suggested any kind of group suicide, let alone anything in a mass, as anything. I mean, maybe it'd be a good protest, frankly. It might be a good protest idea, but you'd probably get arrested before you could even get anywhere with that kind of idea, some kind of mass hunger strike or something. I think it'd be a pretty effective political statement. Single individuals just doesn't mean anything anymore. I almost wish I had more knowledge back in my own era, because you could make a statement as an individual a little easier than you can now. Pouring gasoline on yourself and lighting yourself on fire in the street doesn't impress anybody anymore. It's just the way the world has turned. But again, it's never been about mass suicide. Yes, I defend the right to die. I defend the rights of people who really can't stand being here getting out. But I spend a ton of time explaining why people who do understand, who do have disabilities or pain, need to fight. They need to fight for the future, to prevent it from happening all over again. I mean, damn. So yeah, I can just say you don't know me very well. You don't understand me at all, and clearly you don't have anything called respect. So I'll treat you accordingly, I suppose. I really just don't have the energy for it. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, you could just say, yes, you're not worth my time. You're just a troll now, right? You know, a Christian troll. Ooh, how scary.
It's impossible for me, the fluffy kittenist, to imagine how that could be a fulfilling and happy life. But that's my limits.
Yes, exactly. That's your problem. The very fact that you personalize this from the beginning is just kind of maybe, you know, physician heal thyself. You're just talking out of your own psychological bullshit or BS. You had psychological problems, quite obviously. You know, portrayed them on the internet live and all that kind of stuff. And went through your purgatory and whatever you want to call it, and rised out of the quicksand as the new swamp monster. That's your gig. It's not my gig.
That's my that's the failing of my own capacity for imagination.
Well, I mean, it's also a failing of your.
And I think what I've learned from this interaction is that maybe you're not as unhappy as I thought you were. I mean, maybe this is just the life that's right for you. You found what works for you. Because I was going over it and thinking about this, and I realized, you know, if I watch a couple of your videos in a row, it's not like you never smile. It's not like you never laugh. It's not like you never seem to be having a good time.
I finally killed him. Browser failure. I don't really know how I want to reload it, but I don't know how. I mean, this obviously isn't going to work if I can't turn it on and off. You know, that's just. Whoa! Full screen on me. I didn't hit anything like a full screen button, but I guess it's the double clicking somewhere I double clicked. So I'll do that again. Alright, well, all that stuff. Yeah, yes, quite obvious, but I'm just saying that's all quite obvious. You say you've watched my videos over the years, you've done this, you've known me, or this or that, and that's never been in doubt. The sense of humor part. I used to even make videos on purpose that were funny on purpose. The fact that I have a sense of humor is not unapparent. You know, so it just seems kind of a lame pile of crap to imply that that wasn't somehow in doubt, frankly. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to do a little bit of a reboot here of the browser because it's a piece of shit, motherfucker. Anyway, so slight delay in the progressing of the conversation. I don't think he said anything else in that little slide other than yes, you misunderstand. You misunderstood the original purpose, I suppose, which I just don't even understand how you can see any of my videos as anything like a cry for help. Like, please help me. I'm struggling to find the truth. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know how to get out of my pain and suffering. Blah, 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 blah. Like I haven't identified the problems in life or the things that are the corruptions of our civilization. I mean, all these videos I've made about fair economics and you know, the education system and you know, all the policy stuff, and there's just no way you could interpret all of those statements, those aggressive statements regarding problems and ways of fixing the problems, as anything like a cry for help or holding a gun to my head and begging for money or something. It's just no. That isn't a fair cop perversion. There's just no way you can get there from I'm going to be fair, and that's the conclusion I'll draw when I'm being fair. It's not really possible. Not even close. Alright, so let's see the fake Sagan video.
I'm talking to strangers about how horrible life is and how they should all agree with him and commit mass suicide. And it's impossible for me, the fluffy kittenist, to imagine how that could be.
He throws that in there, the fluffy kittenist.
Change one another.
So he was talking about, you know, being Mr. Anderson, and now he's back to fluffy kittenist. So, you know, whatever that is.
I've decided to embark on a new quest. Instead of a quest to change you, I'm on a quest to understand you now. That's what I want to do. So for the rest of this video, I just want to ask you some questions.
Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. Or consumption, reproduction, addiction, and parasitism. Crap. That's what life is. That's my accusation at the world, so to speak, at reality, is that all it makes is crap. Crap is the only way to make anything. It turns into crap. Crap, 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 crap. So I'm basically saying, yes, no matter where you can look, you can find some kind of crap. One of the letters of the crap.
Questions about your philosophy. Essentially, I want to give you what you've wanted all along through this.
Amazing. Yeah, like I can take any of this seriously. You know what I want when you can't even get something like, I want to convince people to kill themselves. No, I want to stop reproduction. That's what I want to do. I want people to be very happy. I want them to have much but fucking fun. But I just want them to do it without making Frankenstein monsters. Not a big... Is that asking too much? I don't think so.
Whole interaction, which is to stop talking about personal stuff and get down to talking about your ideas. Well, that's what I want to do now.
Well, whoop-de-doo. Here we go. Okay. Like I trust you now. Yeah. I feel so, bro. Okay, bro. Let me have it, bro. From the heart.
So to start off with, there's one thing about antinatalism that I've never understood.
Well, I'm really an ethicist, but okay, go ahead.
And particularly when it comes to your unique brand, epilism, I understand it even less. And I want to make a little disclaimer first. I am not encouraging you to commit suicide.
It doesn't matter. You're just talking shit. This subject of suicide has never been connected to antinatalism by anybody but people who are cheating the argument, who wish to insult and degrade and offend it deeply with a fucking ad hominem attack. That only the grossest trolls draw that conclusion. So you're just a troll, for fuck's sake. This is troll rhetoric. Has nothing to do with the subject. It's nowhere even connected to the subject.
As a matter of fact, if you have...
It's not about killing yourself. I don't know how you could miss that. There's nothing in antinatalism. The word doesn't... Antinatalism doesn't mean anti-life. It doesn't mean anti-sex. It doesn't mean anti-eating... passion fruit. It doesn't mean anti any of that shit. It's natalism, for fuck's sake. You can't go to the trouble to look up what nataling is? For fuck's sake. It's one tiny element of life that most people probably regret doing.
I did commit suicide, and there was even a slight inkling in my mind that something that I said was...
Oh, God, yeah. You don't have any kind of ego issues. Yeah, right. I'm going to live this whole fucking life that you talk, oh, man, you have so much pain and you're so troubled and blah, blah, blah. But it's only until fake Sagan shows up that you're going to have to slit your throat. Not even close, fucker.
The reason for that, I would never make a YouTube video again, and I would probably never engage in any kind of public speaking again.
Well, that's your thing, right? If I could kill a few of you people, whoops, sorry, I said something and you died. Oh, how tragic. I'm sorry. You're all villains and criminals. You're all just horrible, awful people celebrating your gluttony at the expense of the victims you torture. I mean, you just can't really possibly find any way where I could make it reasonable that, oh, I'm so sorry that Mangala has a toothache today. No, I'm not.
But I've never understood why anti-natalists don't kill themselves if they believe what they claim to.
Yeah, I can't, it just doesn't make any sense. It really just doesn't make any sense. It's like saying, why don't heroin addicts kill themselves? Why doesn't everybody who has an addiction that they wouldn't want to, they wouldn't wish on a dog? So let's say every recovering alcoholic, why don't they just kill themselves? No, why should I kill myself because I know there's a thing that shouldn't happen to other people, that I would want to prevent happening to other people? Because I was a victim of it, I should kill myself. So I got molested as a child, I should kill myself because kids will be molested in the future. It's just, it doesn't make any rational sense as any kind of response to the circumstance, the statement being made.
Believe. Now, if you...
I mean, realistically, I'm just saying, yes, the idea that life is burdensome and ugly, and therefore I wouldn't choose it, that element, okay, is sort of fatalistic. But that's if I lived in a world where the future doesn't matter. Well, oh, I forgot. You don't understand that the future happens. Oh, shit. Oh, sorry. Yeah, forget everything I just said. Okay, I get it now. Yeah, nobody clued you in on the fact that the future shows up and becomes the present. Oh, fuck.
You ask an anti-natalist that question, what they'll typically say is something like, well, I accept my limitations as a biological creature that has a self-preservation instinct.
Well, that's one of the answers. My answer is, I think, perfectly reasonable. And I've only said it 468 million times, so I really don't see the point in me saying it again. But yeah, I really can't stop. I'm anti something. Well, guess what? I can't stop the thing I'm anti if I'm dead.
You know, I accept that that my genes control my thought, and my genes want to perpetuate themselves and
Yeah, that just sounds like the biggest pile of crap. I don't think if there's an anti-natalist who's saying that, he's full of shit, because that's just silly talk. Your genes want you to stick dick in vagina. There's nothing in your genetic code saying, I can't wear a condom, though.
They don't want me to die, so I don't want to die. I have this instinct to stay alive. And the only thing I can do is ride this out. Like, I can't go back and change the fact that I was born. It's impossible for me to do that.
Right, well, this seems like an awful long... Okay, you're right, you're going to say they're unreasonable statements by these people? That seems a reasonable statement. They're frickin' here, they're addicted, they're going to play it out. So what's your gripe? They can't play it out as a vegetarian? They can't play it out being against something? I mean, vegetarians are against you eating, innocent animals you have no right to eat. What's the difference? Vegetarians are against something, they fight it. They don't kill themselves. If somebody's against nataling, I mean, what's the difference? What's the difference between being against you overtly, capturing animals, imprisoning them, torturing them, and eating them, and you sentencing some future victim who won't have the life you're anticipating, but he'll have a very different life than that, a very tormented and tortured life, and then being against you doing that, and then you against you creating this new person to create new harm on things, to eat more hamburgers, to do more animal abuse. What's the difference? I don't think you think vegetarians are particularly suicidal. Anyway, I mean, obviously this is just a distraction. Blah, blah, blah.
So all I can do is just ride this out, ride out the suffering, and die in my own good time. But that really doesn't make sense to me.
Too bad.
Because you're going to die anyway. There's no way that you can avoid that. And the death that you find is probably going to be one caused by disease, frailty, old age. And a death in a hospital bed isn't necessarily the most pleasant one. You know, it could be slow, it could be...
Well, again, you just, I mean, obviously you don't spend any time really talking to them, because they might tell you if you said that to them. They might say, I didn't say I wasn't going to commit suicide, I'm just not doing it today. All right, I don't got any problems today necessarily. I'm not, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, my dick still works, and, so, yeah, there's still some Cheetos to eat here for me, personally. I mean, I can still gain some compensation for what I've invested in this stupid life. I mean, I've invested all this crap to gain this knowledge and this ability to point to assholes and go, asshole! So why should I waste all that fun not doing it? But yeah, give me cancer and I'm out of here. I didn't say I wasn't going to commit suicide. I'm just not going to do it today. I think that's what they would say to you.
Painful, and it could involve a great deal of suffering. Whereas if you were to just put a gun in your mouth right now and pull the trigger, that's a pretty quick and painless death, and it spares you like another 20 or 30 years of the...
Right, again, but you're arguing the air here. You're arguing your straw man. I'm just saying, even a typical antinatalist, once you made the argument that, why don't you do it right now, they would probably explain to you, well, if I'm dead, I can't be an antinatalist anymore. Okay, I kind of like, being part of trying to fix it. So that might end up inadvertently giving you my first choice of an answer, which is, I can't stop it if I'm dead. My argument skills are really degraded when I'm dead.
Life that you hate, the existence that's defined by nothing but suffering and sorrow. Why?
Again, that's your characterization. So I'll just define your Christianity as being defined by nothing but shysters and child molesters. That's all you are. You're all glorifying child molestation and thieves. Every one of your icons is a thief, a fucking petty thief. Yeah, you're all the biggest pile of weaselly fucking maggot poo.
Would you not take that option? Now, again, please let me reiterate, I am not encouraging you to commit suicide.
No, you're the one supposed to have a God who gives a shit about you. Why wouldn't you just walk into the bear trap every day? Just find a way to accidentally commit suicide in some sort of honorable way, because you're in for all kinds of rewards and big payoffs. Why don't you commit suicide? You got nothing to lose, right? Because you're a nice guy trying to do the right thing, and you've done all your little baptism rituals, and you've said, oh, I'm so sorry, God. And so you're all ready to go. Your bags are already packed for your wonderful trip, your wonderful vacation trip. Why don't you get on the plane?
Suicide. I just don't understand why you don't. It makes no sense to me.
Well, again, then you're not thinking very hard, because I really don't... I just explain the difference between a vegetarian and an antinatalist in terms of being in a philosophical position to argue something. How exactly are the philosophies different? Oh, that's right. You have to perversely mischaracterize what an antinatalist is, which is a risk-averser, okay? And you have to characterize them as some person who can't see a single tiny thread of life being worth living. But then they'd have even more reason to live, because they'd have even a bigger horror to stop. Pain mitigators are, merciful soldiers, whatever you want to call people who are doing this, social justice warrior, whatever. You're saying the rational alternative for them is just to kill themselves. Stupid.
So if you could start off by explaining that, I would find that very useful.
Liar.
Now, I also want to talk a little bit about this idea of negative and positive value to life, and the idea that
He's made a newer video where he doesn't get any of this right. When I say cupcake and nail, he's talking about the cupcake and the nail. The nail doesn't have value, right? So you say nail and I, and you're talking about the conscious experience that's subsequent, just as the cupcake means nothing if you don't eat it. So obviously the analogy was a pleasurable experience versus an unpleasant experience, and he just, again, just shreds the truth of the statement out of the statement by deliberately misunderstanding.
that procreation, bringing a new life into the world, is sort of like levying a tax against a future generation. It's sort of like you're condemning someone who doesn't exist yet to suffering. And you in Mendham, I'm sorry, why did I just call you in Mendham? You, Gary, have defined this as a form.
Frankly, I like Emendham better. Frankly, I don't have much use for the name Gary. I was given the name Gary because I had a twin sister, Gail. You see, Gary and Gail. It's not really my spirit name.
Of rape. You've used the term rape.
Vigo.
Well, how can you define concretely that life has more negative value than it has positive value?
I don't even have to do that. All I have to do is point to your non-consensual victim. You pull straws of risk and shove them in people's fucking nutsack. I mean, you are deciding to impose, and for that reason alone, I can negate any rights here about even having to make the argument that their suffering is greater than your pleasure, because it's imposed non-consensually. You're picking the victim and dumping it in him. You're not dumping it in yourself. You're not pulling the small straw and then shoving that in your eye. You're shoving it in his eye. And right there, your rights go right away. No, fuck that. That's bullshit. So for that argument alone, I can make that argument. But I think there's a ton of videos. Like I said, I made more 4,000 of them, and I've gone through some of this brain shit and pointed out that it's basically all whip. You can pretend that you're doing something good somewhere, an actual real good, a pleasure. But no, the pleasures are all made out of eradicating the negative. And I can use like the winning the lottery, for example. I could lie to somebody, dress up in a suit, and show up at their door and say, "You won the lottery." And I can make them deliriously happy. I mean, just deliriously happy. With just a sentence, just stupid fucking words. Doesn't even have to be true, and they'll be happy because they think it's true. That's how substantial their grind is. And that's what really, you want to make somebody really happy. Yeah, you pay their rent, you get you abolish you have a debt jubilee and wipe out their debts. That's the kind of shit you do. Yeah, you get rid of their problems and you make them happy people. Euphoria is the default condition if it wasn't for the life worm. The life worm gets inside of you and it eats it away.
Because it's impossible to measure suffering. There's no metric of pleasure or pain. And those things are so...
Doesn't matter. We have the metric of our personal experience. And yes, I can't compensate for your narrative, your optimism bias, your compulsive competitiveness. These are all things that will taint what people will accept. Like, you can see that typically in the example of the hero worship, right? OJ couldn't possibly be guilty. He's my hero. That kind of nonsense. So rational standards get thrown away for this irrational babble. So I can't compensate for the projections, the lies, that people do to make life into something rainbow and special. But personal experience tells you, and I suppose if I could force people to really pay in advance, if I could take the bad of their life and shove it into their future, and then make them watch it come right at them, I think I can get them to wince. I think I can get them to steer the other way. I think I can get them to admit they don't want to do that again.
Subjective. Like the example I was just talking, like your life, we could take that as an example. To me, from my point of view, I would see your life as being something painful and unpleasant, and yet it seems to work for you.
Again, work for. Okay, Stephen Hawking's is been in a wheelchair for 80% of his life. What the fuck? Horribly debilitated. Just must be such a chore to endure, and he does it because he's hungry still. He's still hungry, and that's just a fact. And he's going to find a food dish to chomp at. That's the mechanism. It's an addiction, for fuck's sake. I've used the word more than once.
I'm going to talk about sex because. So by the way, like Christians in the audience, like if Jesus Freak and Stephanie are watching this together, turn the video off and just
they're
go
watching
away.
it together.
Because I don't need a bunch of stuff in.
On the way to the vagina store. Oh, it's going to be so special when you have a real vagina. I mean a penis sack for me to... it's all so special. It's such a special story. In
the comments section, like, oh, you're supposed to be a Christian now. Why are you talking about obscene things in your videos? Guys, there's never been a topic that I've been afraid to talk about, and there never will be. That's not going to change.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of subjects I'm afraid to talk about. They're a little bit lower than the sex organs, but yes, I just don't do the anal fun. I don't like those subjects. And what other ones don't I like? Greytex. Yeah, that's oof. Yeah, I don't like that subject.
And the reason why I'm using this as an example is it's simply the only go-to example that I can think of the way that pleasure and pain can be interchangeable. And so,
well, whatever. Maybe for you, okay? I don't know. You like to have your nipples bitten, huh? You're one of them guys, huh? This is again. This is such a pukish insult to real pain, chronic hard pain that people experience. You don't have like in your sex. You don't say to somebody, "Yeah, now take a hammer and smash my spine, until I have intense sciatic nerve pain for the rest of my life." No, I don't think so.
Objective. I'm going to talk about when chicks give me head. Because when I find myself in one of those Donald Trump locker room conversations with other guys where sex comes up, and I'm sure women have the same conversations with other...
yeah, whatever. It never really did much for me, to tell you. I mean, I just, I'm kind of a face man, right? And the girl's pretty face, with a dick sticking out of it, just... Sorry, it just, that's not a great look for a chick.
Other women where, they talk about sex. Well, when I talk about sex with other guys and the topic of blowjobs comes up, they always discover, much to their horror and shock, that I kind of like it when women use their teeth. Well, there's no kind of...
Well, frankly, I don't know if I don't know how much experience a woman has to have before a man hasn't instructed her on that simple principle that you really can't hurt a penis. Like, you could actually hit that with a hammer. Okay, we could actually put it on the table. We could probably take a little bit of a whack at it. And, it's not going to be a problem. So, I mean, if a guy hasn't already explained to a woman, he's with, that, look, there's certain things you can do and certain things you can't, okay? The nuts, just don't fuck with them at all. But the penis, knock yourself out. Yeah, just pretend it is a big rubber dildo and you can't really do much damage, because you really can't.
I actually do like it. I request it, in fact. And every other guy I've told that to, without exception, has always been like, Oh, what is wrong with you? Oh, it hurts so bad.
Probably that circumcision thing or something, right? Maybe they're all fucking, there's so much fungus growing on their dicks that they don't that it's all eating little spikes into their penis, and so now if you put any pressure on it, the little fungus spikes jab their. I don't. Yeah. Sorry, I'm with you on this one.
Why? Oh, dude. Well, it feels good to me. I like it. This is precisely what I'm talking about, though, Gary. I mean, something that 99% of the human species considers painful. There's always going to be that 1% that just feels like, well, I like.
Again, so you're comparing the whatever the possible pain sensations of pressure on a penis to chemotherapy. No, sorry, I'm not going to do this. That's silly. Get a birth defect. Fuck you, cunt. This is a silly comparison.
I like it. I mean, this feels pretty good. So, considering how subjective pleasure and pain really are.
See, exactly. I would say it's so obvious that it's the biggest span of suffering possible. There is no disagreement. There's a thread, a tiny thread of sensations that might be on something called a fence. But most people know what's on the, hey, that's fun, and hey, that sucks fence, and most of us will agree. I mean, if I list the 9 million sensations and things that can happen to you, we'll have agreement about which ones are fun and which ones aren't.
How can you claim knowledge that life is objectively more painful than it is pleasure?
It's not really the argument. Once again, I don't think a pleasure compensates for a pain in the first place. The person feeling the pleasure has already been compensated for. It's like they've already won the lottery and they've used up the value of the lottery winning. They're already enjoying the fun of not being poor, or the fun of having the pretty girl, or the fun of the fun thing. And their fun isn't going to undo the pain of the other person. You can't just pour pleasure juice. I can't just walk up to some cripple with chronic pain and pour my happiness on him and say, see how happy I am? It's completely making up for your suffering. Your headache is meaningless because I'm happy. It doesn't work that way.
Terrible. How can you claim to know that? Wouldn't you have to be a psychic? Wouldn't you have to have knowledge of other people's...
No, I'd have to just have knowledge that if I could split myself into two people, Gary 1 and Gary 2, and I put all the happiness in Gary 1, and I put all the pain in Gary 2. Oh yeah, Gary 1 would be, hey, this is really great, until he looked at Gary 2 and said, oh, this really sucks. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to figure out.
Experience that the existential isolation of human beings precludes you from having. How are you able to...
Again, I've already explained how I'm able to, is because I actually studied reality, and I know something about evolution, and the evolution of our psychology, and the evolution of our passion, and the evolution of the control mechanisms that make us animals. And yeah, so that's where I can derive the truth from. That there's nothing about this thing that has anything to do with paying you back for any pain imposed. It's not about that. That's not the game we're playing.
To get inside someone else's head and know that...
I mean, again, the syndrome is like the heroin addict. Many of them find it okay. They're so driven, so in pain, that they can start justifying whacking other people in the head. Okay, hey, it's okay if I knock them out for a while and steal their money because I need a fix.
That life is just nothing but suffering for that person. You can't know that, Gary.
I don't have to. Again, I don't have to have a single bit of respect for their ideas or their notions. Again, that's like me being obligated to respect a retard. I don't have any obligation to do that. So if you people want to contrive something where your happiness is worth somebody else's pain, I don't have to say because you believe it, it's true. First off, no way I have to do that. And I'll just say from my own personal experience, I understand what optimism bias is. I understand what addiction is, and I can understand that that's the mechanism that makes even me think I might be winning.
Here's another little thought. If the antinatalist refrains from committing suicide because he accepts his own limitations as a biological organism, how come he can't accept the limitations of the world? How come he can't accept the limitations of life?
Because there's a difference between, again, having something thrust upon you and then being the thruster. It's a difference between being fucked and fucking. There's a difference between being mugged and mugging. There you go. That's the one. Yeah, let's use that one.
It's like you guys are willing to grudgingly accept that you're not perfect, that there's a flaw in you that keeps you from being able...
Yeah, well, whatever. I'd say the flaw is a lot smaller than the fucking flaws in you retards. I mean, the obvious flaws, like you can't even figure out it's not nice to imprison sentient organisms and torture them and eat them. That's kind of rude.
To live your philosophy to the fullest. Yet you can't accept that there are flaws in that the world is less than perfect. The world has to be...
Living a philosophy to the fullest doesn't even make any sense. I mean, most of philosophy is just a list of facts. You don't live the facts. So even that doesn't make any sense. Again, I didn't come here with an agenda beyond the fact that I woke up here, realized I have some needs and feelings and such. Touch me here, but don't touch me there, and don't do this, but don't do that. I mean, I had some rules that seemed to be apparent, but that's it. I mean, I didn't come here with the agenda.
Be perfect, or it's just not good enough. The example that I used in my comments section of my most recent video about antinatalism is that it's quite literally throwing out the baby with the bathwater, if you've ever heard that term. That's...
Yeah, well, you can say it's quite literally. It's quite obviously, in my opinion, rationally defining the bathwater. Just because you people can't figure out which one is which, it's not my problem. So I would just invert that on you and saying you people are hugging addiction, okay, imposition, and preposterously vain rationalizations, and calling them baby. No, I'm calling that bathwater.
That should be in the dictionary next to antinatalism. It's almost essentially what the word means: anti-birthism, anti-babyism. That's literally what you guys are doing.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, quite obviously not putting the baby in the bathwater is the same thing as killing babies or something. No, it isn't. The argument, once again, is about prevention, and you want to keep pretending it's not. It's a simple equation. This thing will make likely more mess than it will be able to clean up. Fact. Don't make it. There, you solved the problem. There's no problem. The Martians are functioning at high efficiency. They don't have any leftover residue. There's no stink coming off Mars. There's no virus. There's no anything floating off of them as this as a cesspool of suffering. There's a ton of unresolved suffering on Earth. We're failing by comparison. Unnecessary, wasted suffering. That's a crime.
Like the term "throwing out the baby with the bathwater" is an idiom that refers to wanting so bad to get rid of what's bad that you also throw out what's good along with it. And it's simply the perfect metaphor for.
I think it's an imbecilic metaphor in the sense that there's absolutely no evidence that your satiated Mengele-esque heroin addict is a baby. Yeah, there's no evidence that your egotistical, insanely stupid Trump president is a baby. That it's a good. There's no evidence of your good here. There's just evidence of your avarice.
Antinatalism. You're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, quite literally. But when it comes to this idea of rape,
I wonder what your definition of the bathwater is. Frankly, quite funny. Anyway, yeah. Again, prevention, not a tricky word. If you want to describe to me how the universe is in some practical way deprivated by the non-existence of the Martians, maybe I'll listen. But I don't think you can make that argument. And the Plutonians and the Newtonians and the Moononians. So why don't you explain how, because there's no Saturnites, the universe is profoundly babyless. And all it has is bathwater.
Against the rights of people who don't yet exist. I have two questions about that. Here's the first one. What if the unborn child happens to be a person who loves life, who thinks, unlike you, that life has more positive value than it has negative value?
Do they think it's okay to slaughter animals for their gratification? Do they think it's all right to rape women to satisfy their penises? What else do they think in the process of this validation of their rights as a living thing? Do they think they have a right to step on bugs? Do they have a right to fuck some other animal's day? Do they have a right to back over the cat? Do they have a right to do all the millions of things that are possible to do in this thing called a life that you didn't mean to do, but you're in fact going to do? Do they think they're worth it? Then I say they're idiots. Retarded.
That the scales are tipped in favor of pleasure rather than tipped in favor of pain.
So again, that doesn't matter. You're talking about individuals. I'm talking about the fact that they're statistical facts. So I'm just saying, once you can associate some statistical facts with an event, with a behavior, then you can justifiably say you can't do that behavior anymore. So you're probably for drunk driving, right? Because a few drunk drivers really enjoy the liberty of being, oh fuck, I don't have to call somebody, I can just drive home, I don't have to do this bullshit. It's such a liberty, it's such a beautiful, fun liberty. And so their fun, their comfort, their pleasure is worth what we know statistically will be the price of people thinking that way. I'm just a little bit drunk, I have excellent tolerance, so all of those people, the anecdotal I'm in controllers, we know are associated with not in control. Whoops. And we know that statistically. So I'm just saying, this anecdotal evidence doesn't mean anything. Do you think we should get rid of the laws against drunk driving because anecdotally there are drunks who never kill anybody? I mean, not very logical.
If that happens to be the case, then aren't you the rapist? Aren't you the rapist taking away that person's right to exist?
Yeah, I can just, again, you can make hundreds of analogies based on safety information, right? I mean, sometimes seatbelts will kill you. It's a fact. Sometimes wearing your seatbelt will get you killed. but the vast majority of times it'll not only prevent you from dying or being harmed, it'll prevent the person you didn't hit because you're wearing a seatbelt from dying or getting harmed. It'll not only make you less likely to die, it'll make you less likely to have a car accident.
I suppose you would just justify your decision by saying that the person is deluded. That, oh, if you think that life is good and that there's more positive value than negative value to it, then you're just deluded. So I have to make the decision for you. But
again, I'm not making the decision for them. I'm preventing them from committing a trespass against their victims. I'm defending the victims. I'm taking the people who are being tortured off the gurney. That's what I'm doing. I don't really give a fuck about you assholes. I mean, shove your own heads up your own ass till the end of time, I could argue. I really don't have energy to save retarded people who are insisting they're not retarded. There's not much you can do, right? If the retard keeps saying, me not retarded, me not retarded, and he's getting angrier and angrier and more obstinate, yeah, there's a point where you just say, okay then, here's the door, go be you, and see how well you do, fuckhead. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about liberating a retard to be a retard. We're talking about liberating a mangala to be a mangala. Again, if you make no victim, I have no argument for you. I have an argument about your own self-harm, but there's a point where you're just going to say, if they're so committed, all right, to shoving shit up their own asses, let them.
But isn't that rape, Gary? Isn't that you taking away somebody else's rights?
Again, there's no other way to do anything, to conform anything to an engineering schema that doesn't take away rights by your definition. I can't give the redwood timber the right to be a 100-story building because the redwood timber can't do the job. It just can't have that right, okay, because it's not going to be able to do it. It's an engineering thing. And it's just the idea that we have rationally understood what something called civilized is and decent and fair. These are the confinements I'm putting you in. I'm saying, yes, you have to behave in some kind of reasonable, in the reasonable fair bucket. And I'm just saying when you impose on something risk, that's not being fair. Yes, you can't get consent. That's the fact. But the fact that you can't get consent doesn't take away the argument that you don't have consent, for fuck's sake. It just doesn't make consent go away. The fact that she's unconscious and she can't give consent doesn't mean you don't have to have it still.
Now, I'm also going to go at this from another direction, and one that perhaps you wouldn't expect. And that's to ask this question: does a person who does not exist have rights? Let me explain.
No, you don't even have to bother explaining. I mean, it's just stupid. I've already made it as clear as I can make it. I think the future is not only as much as us, as real as us, it's bigger than us. It's more of us. So clearly it has rights. Yes, the future is tied up in a closet. It can't get out yet. It's not free to speak. I can speak for it, quite obviously. I can say, I know what the future would want, and it wouldn't want you to frost the planet Earth in dioxin. It wouldn't want you to shit in the water it's going to drink.
Explain what I mean. An antinatalist such as yourself would probably say that a parent's motivations in creating a child, in procreating,
right, are trivial, psychological, completely notional. They have nothing to do with anything that's in the world. There's nothing in the world saying, hey, you must have a child. It's not even on a billboard somewhere. Is there any kind of argument being made that's rational saying, we need your baby to fix something. We need your baby to cure cancer. We need your baby to do nothing. There's no specific mandate that has anything whatsoever to do with you should have a baby. You need to do it for us. You need to do it for the world. No such mandate. And in many corners, there's the opposite mandate, which is don't sit there and make children that we have to not only educate and reconstruct after you've harmed them. Don't drug addict your fetuses. Don't sit there and just make as big a mess as possible and force society to waste its resources reconstructing the monsters you're making.
Are not righteous motivations, they're selfish motivations, right? Like, the reason why we have...
And they're stupid and selfish. Yeah, it's more than just selfish. It's fucking ignorant. No time spent whatsoever contemplating their child's death. None. They didn't think about, well, how's my kid gonna die? And maybe he's gonna be one of those unlucky... Or what about if it gets leukemia? What if it's, No, they don't do any of that what-ifing shit. That is a logical part of being a responsible human being. What if the cat's asleep under the car? Maybe I should look. Yeah, they can't even do that much.
Children is because misery loves company, right? It's two things. It's number one, it's simply our genes controlling our thought, and our genes that want to perpetuate themselves are...
I'm not going to play with this nonsense argument. Your genes could fool you through all of human history, okay? 99.999% of the time we've been humans, we had no idea that intercourse creates babies. We had there was no way to associate having sex with the deliberate act of I'm making babies. No man humps a woman going, I'm making a baby, I'm making a baby, I'm making a baby. They're not doing that. So until you show me a bunch of men, show me the porn tape where a man is saying, I'm making a baby, I'm making a baby. Okay, it's really, I love babies. Oh, I can't wait for the baby to come out. Oh yeah, I can't wait to see the head of the baby shoot out and rip the vagina, and they have to take a scalpel and cut the vagina open bigger and shit. I can't wait to see all that shit. Ooh, cool. So show me that guy, and then you can make this ludicrous argument that men have sex to make babies.
Manipulating us into procreating, and we're being used by our biology, essentially. And
you're not being used; you're being duped. And obviously, we don't have to be duped anymore. So that's the simple argument. There's no issue. There's no need to compare sex to baby making. There's no rationally, just meagerly educated human being needs to associate sex with procreation. The two things don't have to be connected anymore.
And two, it's this idea that misery loves company, that life sucks, we're all unhappy.
Oh, that happens.
So we want to bring a child into our lives to make ourselves a little bit happier. But what about the needs of the child? Are we just doing it for our...
Yes, it's cute ducky, cute rabbit, cute birthday present, and then 2 weeks later it's like, oh, I don't want to take care of that thing. What, you mean I have to invest time in it? You mean I have to talk to my kids? Oh, I don't. Come on, I don't want to do that.
Ourselves. Well, here's the question that I'm asking. What if misery really does just love company? So what? Doesn't an
again, no. So what? So what again? If you could do all of this consensually, like I said, if you could be just shoving your own heads up your own group's ass, I'd say, okay, yeah, you sadistic lunatics, okay, I can't argue with you. I probably would kill you if I could, just to put you out of your misery. Okay, because you're fucking retarded. I would do a mercy killing. Okay, maybe. But I'm just saying, what do you want me to say? I'm saying you don't have a right to tell me, okay, the thing that will actually acquire intelligence, that you did it some sort of favor, or that you had some sort of innocent intent. You didn't. Or that you did anything close to thinking in terms of informed consent. Did you give it any consideration at all before you committed the act that I might be smarter than you, and I might be quite offended that you thought I would think this wonderful world you threw me into is worth living in? That I can't wait to be a slave to the 1%. I just can't wait to have people like Donald Trump look down at me, the guy who can do something, The guy who does know something. Oh, I just can't wait. I'm just goosebumped all over. No, I'm not.
Organism that already exists have more rights than an organism that does not exist. How can we speak of the rights of a non-existent...
Well, I've already made this argument in the other video, so yeah, I think I've already argued this, so I'm not going to argue it again. So, but I'll play the rest of this. But it means this is such a superficial diagramming of the 4,000 videos I've made talking about brain functions and addiction, consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. Gone through all of this stuff. And this is just such a superficial drawing. It's just crayon shit. And it insults my intelligence, but yeah, I'm used to that happening. But it insults your own character and integrity by saying you have some sort of respect, quote unquote, for me, by insulting my argument so pathetically like this, to characterize it so poorly. Fuck you. Yeah, I'll just say you're a Christian because you want to molest children. There. Are we done now? Why else would you be a Christian? Why would anybody voluntarily be a Christian unless they want to molest children? It's kind of obvious. Like joining the Boy Scouts or something. I mean, obviously, you just want to play with penises or something. Fuck, it's obvious. Sort of is.